Hello everybody and welcome to Dungeons and Drams. If you saw last week's episode on creating a fighter and kind of a workflow sheet thing of how to play that fighter, this week we're going to do a wizard because I think that's far more complex, at least as far as a workflow goes. Don't get the pitchforks out. But I want to see what ChatGPT will do, so let's go over to our prompt. I changed up the scenario just a little bit. I'm a player who is going to be playing in a one-shot Dungeons & Dragons adventure. I've been told that the adventure will be centered around a haunted house and a hidden treasure. I will provide the character's name, sex, race, class, and either I'll give you a subclass or I'll tell you generally what I want my role to be. I would like you to create a character at level 9 and pick a subclass and starting equipment. So now we're being prompted for the name, sex, race, class, and subclass. Now, I'm not sure which subclass I want, so I'm going to give it a generality. I'm going to say I want some sort of like a necromancer, because I know I'm going into a haunted house, and maybe I'm thinking to myself, oh, undead, maybe I can control them, or something like that. Let's go with this. My character's name is Sinestra. She's a tiefling wizard. I would like to play a necromancer of sorts, but I'm not sure what subclass to pick. So let's make it do the hard work for us. And here we see ChatGPT being a little lazy, but you'll understand why in a minute. Just a quick reminder that I'm going to have all of the prompts that I go through tonight and any relevant responses here that might be a little too long to read. I'll put them into a link down below. It'll be free over on the Patreon, just always will be free. But I would like you guys to check it out because it's a lot easier to update. I can add images there and I can just kind of update it over time. All right, so it says, great choice for the tiefling wizard with an inclination towards necromancy. The ideal subclass would be a necromancer. Wow, that's crazy. Which falls under the school of necromancy. I keep wanting to say that wrong. For wizards, this subclass focuses on manipulating the forces of life and death, making it perfect for a necromantic theme. Cool. All right, so a little bit of basic information. Level 9, tiefling wizard, Sinestra, blah, blah, blah. Ability scores. It tells you that you want to do point by standard array or rolling, and you'll allocate your scores. Remember, as a wizard, intelligence is your primary ability, followed by con and dex. So that kind of helps you to understand where you should drop your points if you're rolling on them. So tiefling traits, it tells you what you get for being a tiefling. Now the good news is here, I am new to this character. I don't really know anything about tieflings or wizards or whatever. I'm just jumping into a one-shot. So it's really good to have this kind of stuff just spelled out for you, especially hellish resistance. Like that might not be a thing that you really always think about. Infernal Legacy, of course. Now you have thaumaturgy, so that's really good. You want to make sure that you keep track of that, especially when you're picking your spells, which is going to get me to the bit about how this got really lazy. It's also going to tell you a little bit more, but again, I'll put that in the Patreon. Your starting equipment, blah, blah, blah. It says you'll need to flesh out the details like ability score, specific spells, and background based on your campaign and personal preferences. No, I don't. Pick my spells for me. Could you pick my spells for me? Much better. Now I have my full spell list, and let's see how it did. So Chill Touch makes sense. That's kind of a classic necromancer spell. You have Mage Hand, cool. Prestidigitation, Minor Illusion, I like all of those. Level 1 spells, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, Detect Magic, Ray of Sickness, okay, another necromantic spell. Now, if I remember correctly, there's not a ton of necromancy spells at the lower levels, so far I think it's doing okay. It's hit the two major ones. Blindness, Deafness, Ray of Enfeeblement, that's another good one. Misty Step, okay. I always like having Misty Step on my wizards. I think it's useful. Level 3 spells, Animate Dead, okay, cool. Counterspell, Fireball, interesting choice, but I mean, who doesn't want Fireball? Vampiric Touch, okay, so it is focusing a bit on necromantic spells, but obviously a necromancer doesn't have to only have necromantic spells. So I'm glad it's spreading it out and not just going full theme. I have a tendency to do that with my characters, but that's because it's ridiculous. All right, Blight, high single target necrotic damage. Banishment, Dimension Door, might not be as useful if you already have Misty Step, but I get that they're a little different. Level 5 spells. As a 9th level wizard, you can learn one 5th level spell, Raise Dead. Fits the necromancer theme and can be a game changer in the campaign. Okay, cool. So I now have all of my spells. Just because I'm using ChatGPT 4 and I have this access, I'm going to have it create an image of this character. It might look terrible. Whatever it's using for its image generation, I'm not sure if it's using DALL-E. I would assume so. I just don't think that they have the hands right still. I know Midjourney's gotten a lot better with the hands and the generation of the hands. Ooh, Sinestra. Interesting. She's missing... No, she's got an arm. Okay. I was a little worried that she might be missing an arm at that point. but this actually is a great looking image. I'll throw that up on the Patreon as well. So now we need to ask it to design our workflow. Now I would like you to design a workflow that will help me make decisions on my turn. Take into account a variety of situations that I may find myself in. In the case of combat, suggest instances where it makes sense to use my necromantic features rather than simply attacking. Also, I need information about my spells and what situation they should be used for. Assume I'm very new to playing a wizard. All right, let's see how it did. So it talks about combat and talks about my role, basically whether I want to control the battlefield, support allies, or deal damage. It basically says I can do all of those things, but the first thing it's telling me is to assess the battlefield and then decide on my goal, support, control, or damage. Now, all of that kind of makes some sense, and if I do have some raised enemies, I might be able to do more than one of those things at a time. But during combat, high enemy concentration, use area spells like Fireball for damage or Blindness Deafness to debilitate. And I think that's great because it is so tempting to just use Fireball until you can't. But suggesting other things to do as well that will actually help your party is probably a better choice. Okay. Strong single target, use spells like Blight or Ray of Enfeeblement. Defensive play, use Misty Step for repositioning or Mage Armor if you didn't cast it earlier. Now my necromantic features, use Animate Dead at the start of your turn. If you have time and resources to raise dead undead minions, apply Vampiric Touch, blah, 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 blah. Allies in trouble, consider utility spells like Dimension Door for quick rescues. That makes sense. Control the field spells like Banishment to temporarily remove threats. I can't tell you how many times a good banishment has saved the day. Okay. End of combat. Use Prestidigitation or Mage Hand to clean up or manipulation of the environment if needed. So that's good. And a lot of times people will think about that, but having it happen directly at the end of combat might be the difference of those few minutes like, oh, well, you know, all the battle made noise and now the guards are coming, but you've now already started to do your Prestidigitation and you've cleaned up some stuff. Maybe that matters. Okay. Exploration. It talks about what to do with your exploration. In general, this is just another way of kind of helping people who are new to the character. Like, oh, okay, I'm exploring around. What kind of stuff should I do? All right, let me check my sheet. Oh, detect magic. I could use my mage hand. I could restore my my spells. And maybe I could use some necromantic minions. Same with social interaction. Okay, now here's the part that I was really looking forward to. Use your spells effectively. It talks about all of your different spells and kind of when to use them. So you've got utility spells, offensive spells, defensive spells, healing, so you could use your Vampiric Touch, and necromancy specialty. Use Animate Dead to blah, blah, blah. All of this, actually, I think this is pretty good. I would personally like to do several more of these and see if it comes up with a good swath of different spells that it wants to assign. But based off how closely it's stuck to the theme of this character, I think it's going to do a great job. Let me know in the comments what class you think would be fun to see next, and if you have a specific subclass or even a theme or just like a one-shot concept, like come at me with some cool stuff and I'll use it in the episode. As I mentioned, everything's going to be over on the Patreon under a free post, so go check those all out there. I'll post some images, I'll do whatever, and we can chat about things there as well. And I'll have all of the prompts and some of the responses on there as well. Okay, thank you guys all for joining me here on Dungeons & Drams. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers.